So, Assistant Commissioner Brewer, 2025 saw a big rise of extortion cases in BC, especially in Surrey and Abbotsford. Can we expect 2026 to be the year where we'll see a downward trend in these extortion cases?
Yes, we can. And in fact, we're already seeing a downward trend in the late stages of 2025 as the Extortion Task Force gets its legs under it, starts to move forward on the various investigations they have, along with the various police of jurisdictions working together, sharing more information, sharing intelligence, and working on those efforts to provide more, best way to say it, to subdue activities within the communities that are attached to the extortions.
Before the announcement of BC's Extortion Task Force on September 17th, do you think the number of reported cases about extortions were less? And if there was underreporting, what was the reason for that?
Yeah, I do believe there's underreporting. I think underreporting was for various reasons. First and foremost was the extorters were targeting a certain group within the community they believed would not report. So that was first and foremost. But also I believe the community's trust in the police was shaken. I think they did not see the immediate action they'd hoped for generally along all jurisdictions. And I think now with the task force out there getting more information to the public, certainly, I think has really helped. We've asked them to provide more information to us and report more, and they're doing so.
After the announcement of the Extortion Task Force, the very next month, in October, just in Surrey, the extortion cases went flying high. If I'm not wrong, the extortion cases just for Surrey in the month of October was close to 30. What happened there? Was it considered as a rise in the extortion cases, or did the reporting of the extortion cases went high?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was a rise in reporting, we believe. And again, we asked people to report and they respond to that reporting. So actually, this is going to sound strange. I'm actually very pleased that the numbers went up because we're finding out more and more the extortions are out where they ceased to begin in the underground. They came forward to the police as we expect them to do.
BC's Extortion Task Force is a blend of quite a few agencies. How is the coordination level within the task force?
Coordination is excellent right now. It's the BCRCMP is leading it, but we have various municipal independent agencies, RCMP municipal agencies in it, as well as federal agencies, including Canada Border Services.
Do you happen to have the exact number of extortion-related cases that the task force is following right now, and the number of arrests as well?
Yeah, so the task force right now is working in excess of 30 cases, just the task force. Those aren't all individual cases. They are grouped together in nodes. So what we do is we look for linkages between cases. When we find those linkages, we bring them under the task force under one group. So we're working a number of those, which is really allowing us to focus on the intelligence-led policing we need on those most serious cases that pose the greatest risk to the public.
And any idea of what number of arrests has happened?
So I can say right now we have made a number of arrests. I don't want to talk so much about arrests. I want to talk about where we've got cases to Crown and Crown has approved charges. As you know, just this week we got another set of investigations where we got charges on, and we're moving that number of cases allowed us to move forward on others. So we're making great progress on a number of files along a number of fronts.
The extortion cases had already happened in Ontario before these extortion letters surfaced or the reports of extortion letters surfaced in BC. There's a public sentiment and a general sentiment that the response towards these extortion cases was slow. Are you aware of that sentiment, and are you concerned about that sentiment?
Yeah, I am aware of that sentiment. I've heard it loud and clear from various members of the public. I will say this, it's not unusual to have a crime type move across the country or move from another country into Canada, for example. That's what happened here. It started certainly back in the East and started to move forward here. When it did come here, it was slow at first, and I think local police jurisdictions were handling it. They didn't realize that it had become a regional problem. Once we discovered it was a regional problem, that's when we worked together to form the task force so we could deal with it truly with as a regional issue with economy of effort and economy of scale applied by the various police agencies.
Where was the gap? When this became a regional problem, did the police agencies not understand that this will be a regional problem very soon? And Ontario's example was already there. Where exactly was the gap? Why did the problem became as big as it became?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of a bunch of issues here. I think first and foremost, it was seen as an Ontario problem. Then it was seen as it started to move west. We didn't really catch on to that, and that's not uncommon. We're busy investigating things within our cities, within our jurisdictions. But once it did come here, and we started to realize it became a cross-jurisdictional issue within the province of British Columbia, the police agencies here are always sharing information. Once that became clear that we had to stand up a regional task force, there was great cooperation amongst everybody to do so.
When you talk about the cooperation, I've heard you in the past talk about the cooperation needed within the police agencies, but also from the community and especially the victims. What kind of cooperation have you had from the community and the victims? And if it's not to the level which you expected it should be, how to take it higher?
Yeah, so I will say since the announcement and the formation of the task force, the cooperation amongst victims and associated witnesses has increased greatly. What we would say is there's always room for improvement. Anytime you get exposed to suspicious activity, especially where it's coming in the realm of extortions, save all digital evidence you have, any information you have. If you see strange activity in your neighborhood, make note of it. Let your local police jurisdiction know that. There's no such thing as too much information. We could always use more. And it's interesting, some of the major files we're working on now, the linkages started from people just identifying things in their neighborhood that didn't look right. And so that's sometimes the starting point we need. There's no such thing as too little or too small evidence.
You were just a couple of questions back, you were talking about the arrests and the people being charged. And you mentioned the person who was charged just this week recently. 21-year-old Avtar Singh was charged with unlawful discharge of firearm. Why was this person not charged with something that was extortion related? Where is the gap?
Yeah, so there isn't a gap there. So while he was charged with those offenses, we are currently working on other charges for that individual and other individuals as the investigation continues to unfold. Even though we have charge approval, it doesn't mean we stop our investigation. So we are looking at linkages between that individual, other individuals of interest, and when we make those linkages, that more information goes to Crown Counsel to get more charges. And we certainly are pursuing extortion-based charges for that individual and others.
I've heard from you and other officials in the past that the people who are being deported, their identities cannot be revealed because of privacy rights. Understandable. But don't you think this is actually becoming a hindrance, or this will eventually become a hindrance in the investigation itself? Because a lot of people who might have information about these specific individuals, they'll probably not come forward because they're not sure if their information is going to be helpful or not, because they don't know if the same individual has been deported or not.
So here's what I'll say. If you have any information on any individuals or groups, please bring it forward. Even if someone has been or has left the country or has been sent out of the country, we can still use that information to build a case against them, whether we could look at extradition to get them back, or if there's a warrant issued for the arrest, they may not be able to come back to the country. Those are all helpful things for us. And so I would say, again, much to my previous comment, don't assume that we know that information, or don't assume that individual, just because we cannot release that name. And there's good reason for that. You know, we have rights and freedoms in this country, and we have to be very careful that everybody is protected by that. Once you break the law and it goes before the courts, then we can name names as we did this week. And I think that's an important distinction between Canada and other countries.
A lot of people who are being deported, community, we media people, we are assuming that they are directly or indirectly related to the extortion cases. Is that true?
In many cases, it is. Very early on, we formed a partnership with Canada Border Services Agency to come with us when we do execute our search warrants, to be with us as we're gathering our evidence and our intelligence, sharing that with them. Because if we can prevent a crime from happening by sending someone out of the country that shouldn't be in this country and now currently or in the first place, that's helpful for public safety, police safety, and the public in general.
So when you say in many cases, are there also cases or can there be cases which are related to these deportations, but the individuals might not be directly or indirectly involved in these extortion cases?
Yeah, absolutely. When we execute a search warrant, we can find a number of people in that residence, and some are associated to the extortions, others aren't. They get checked as a matter of the investigation, and then with Canada Border, we find out that they've either overstayed their visa or they're no longer compliant with the conditions of their visa. So then Canada Border takes that investigation.
But they're actually being considered as the deportations which will be given as numbers related to these deportations, or those deportations are not going to be included in the numbers which are being shared during a lot of press conferences, etc., etc.?
Yeah, so for the task force itself, when we work closely with Canada Border Services, we allow Canada Border Services to carry on their investigations. Their investigations can take whatever avenue they wish. For us, it's primarily if anybody is on our list of people of interest, then we will work with them to either keep them in the country so we can finish our investigation, get them before the courts. Ultimately, that's what we want to do. I want to make clear to everybody here that we are not at any time just deporting someone out just to get them out of the country. We want to make sure that they pay the ultimate price in Canada to the fullest extent of the courts for what they've done or are doing.
An individual named Bandhuman Singh Sekhon, he was arrested in India in the last week of November, and the police claimed that he had connections, or he was somehow connected with the shooting that happened at Caps Cafe in Surrey. Have you reached out or have you connected with any of your counterparts in the Indian policing system to get information on that?
Yeah, so this is the advantage of having the BCRCMP lead this task force. We are working closely with our federal counterparts to work with the authorities in India to try to confirm that information and how they got the information and where they got it, and if we can use it in our investigations.
There are questions, and I'm sure you've come across this before, that this is not a Bishnoi group issue, but rather an issue of related to transnational dominance. What kind of discussions have you had with the government officials at the provincial or the federal level about this?
Yeah, so this comes up at every level. And I want to assure everybody that every investigation we engage in, we work with our federal counterparts to see if it is part of a transnational gang crime group. And I can tell you right now, there are some that go that way, certainly. But we have not found direct linkages to date, and I'm not saying we won't, but to date in our investigation, that link it to groups like the Bishnoi Gang or directly to any other government or government agency.
Connect FM took a deep dive into the cases in BC. A lot of we checked 10 jurisdictions in total. Surrey and Abbotsford count for a total of around more than 150 cases, extortion files. If we look at some of the other jurisdictions, Delta, Richmond, Burnaby, New West, Vancouver, all these jurisdictions counted together don't even come up to double-digit numbers. A lot of people, they think that because we all understand what population dominates the Surrey and the Abbotsford community demographic, a lot of people, they feel that the kind of severity this issue or this problem should have faced, it didn't face it because this is not being looked upon as a Canadian problem, but an Indo-Canadian problem. What would you like to say to the people who feel so?
Yeah, this is absolutely a Canadian problem. We are not looking at this as an Indo-Canadian problem. This is a problem we look at as a public safety issue across the board. We're not concerned about what community it hits or what communities. Wherever extortions hit anywhere, we will investigate them to the fullest of our ability and make every effort to get it before the courts.
There have been a lot of announcements related to rewards and funding for both the people who are providing information and for the victims in the recent past. What kind of feedback have you had from the community and especially the victims about these announcements?
Yeah, so those programs and announcements don't come from the BCRCMP, so we're not privy to those. I would encourage you and people to ask both the City of Surrey and the Surrey Police Service how those programs are going.
During a public forum, and you were a part of that public forum, Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke, she said Surrey is under siege right now. Do you feel so? And if you feel so, how are we going to take Surrey out of it?
Yeah, I do not feel that Surrey is under siege. And I want everybody, please understand. I understand that this is important to the community and critical to the community, and we treat it as such. What I don't want, though, is unnecessary fear in the community. That doesn't help anybody. And I think breeding more fear will only add to public mistrust of the police, public mistrust of government. We don't need that. What we need is everybody from the community, government, police, other agencies to get together, work forward on this in every capacity they can to come to solutions like we have and deal with this problem. This problem of extortions will only stop when these people are brought to justice.
Assistant Commissioner Brewer, thank you for being very candid and very open and very honest in your answers. Is there any comments, anything else you would like to say?
I would say this. Rest assured that the police officers working on these files do not take time off. They are working around the clock. They are working across jurisdictions. They are working with their counterparts across the country daily and hourly to get the right information so we can get charges before the courts as soon as possible.
Assistant Commissioner, thank you very much for sparing time for us, and we wish you and your team a wonderful 2026. And we also leave this interview expecting a downward trend in these extortion cases in 2026.
So do I. Thank you. Enjoy happy holidays and a Merry Christmas to your listeners. Thank you.
Thank you very much.